I knew something was wrong the second Vanessa Carlyle strutted into the conference room like she'd bought stock in oxygen. Her heels clicked too loud for 9 a.m. Her perfume could have been measured in decibels, and her smile looked like it had been practiced in a mirror while whispering, "I run this place." She was 30 minutes late to the most critical acquisition meeting of the fiscal year. $150 million on the line, and she waltzed in holding an oat milk latte like it was an accessory. She didn't even apologize, just adjusted her cream blazer, flashed the clients a PR smile, and said, "Sorry, travel coordination's been a mess lately. Corporate really needs to vet who books these flights." That would be me. The person who got her a direct business class ticket, meal preferences included, gluten-free, but not in a high-maintenance way, as she once clarified. She never looked my way once, not when I handed out the compliance packets, not when the client asked about policy checkpoints, and especially not when she tossed her hair back and said, "Remind me again what she does?" Then she waved a manicured hand in my direction, like I was a decorative plant. Legacy admin role, she called it. Deadwood from the merger. Deadwood. I'd been at Stratison Systems longer than she'd been legally allowed to rent a car. I smiled, because that's what you do in compliance. You document the crime scene, not scream at it. She'd just been promoted to VP of People Operations, which is HR with extra syllables, and I could already see the cracks. She hadn't read the acquisition protocol binder, confused the term signatory chain with a physical badge list, and asked if EBA was still a thing. I took notes. I always take notes. When the meeting ended, she was already texting, probably updating her LinkedIn with making moves at leadership moments. I went back to my office, quietly, like I always do. Then I sent 3 emails. 2 routine, 1 not. The third went to outside counsel, just a friendly confirmation of our compliance charter timestamp with the Securities Commission. Nothing urgent. Just insurance. 10 minutes later, Vanessa appeared in my doorway without knocking, hovering like a cat that's about to knock over a vase. "Hey, can I grab 5?" she asked, voice dripping with corporate sugar. I motioned her in. She didn't sit. "So," she started pacing, "leadership and I have been looking at org structure, and we think it might be healthy for you to take a little breather. Nothing serious, just a week off. Reset, recharge, you know?" I blinked. "Are you formally placing me on leave?" "Oh my God, no!" She laughed. "This isn't that kind of energy. It's more restructuring vibes. You'll still get paid. But yeah, starting tomorrow." I stared at her. "And the $150 million acquisition?" "We'll loop Trevor from Ops in," she said brightly. "It's mostly clerical anyway." Clerical. I watched her leave, humming something smug. When she was gone, I opened my drawer and took out the original compliance charter, the one filed with the SEC, signed and stamped, stating in bold, "No acquisition exceeding $100 million shall proceed without documented approval and live signature of Lauren M. Keaton, Director of Regulatory Compliance." Clerical, my ass. The next morning, she showed up again, this time with Clara from HR, who looked like she wanted to dissolve into a vent. Vanessa didn't waste time. "Hi. So, as we mentioned, we're just helping you take a strategic refresh," she chirped. "Paid, of course." I turned to Clara. "Is this documented?" She hesitated. "It's more of a suggested reset." "And who's handling my responsibilities?" "Trevor," Vanessa beamed. "He's super hungry for stretch goals." Trevor once asked if GDPR was a Marvel villain. I looked at her and said quietly, "You do know I'm the final signatory on all acquisitions above $100 million? She giggled. "Oh, Lauren, don't be so literal. That's just on paper. In real life, deals move because people move." I smiled. "You're right. Some things are just on paper." When they left, I locked my door. Then I opened the envelope marked Black Swan Protocol. Time to document the scream. Inside the envelope labeled Black Swan Protocol were documents I'd hoped I'd never have to touch again. The original compliance charter, the federal notice of appointment, and the 2018 amendment confirming my authority couldn't be overridden without a full 3-month refiling. No shortcuts, no exceptions. I laid each page flat on my desk, smoothed the edges, and felt that old, steady calm sink in. The kind that comes right before a controlled burn. Then I opened the internal document tracker. Vanessa had already submitted a draft of the acquisition file. It was laughable. No signature chain, no compliance review notes, not even a timestamp. She'd bolded her own name under authorized representative. Watching her fake a compliance filing was like watching a toddler forge a permission slip. I printed every page. The printer hummed like an accomplice. While it churned, I picked up my desk phone, the landline, not my cell. There's a reason I still keep it. Harvey Little, answered the voice on the other end. My old mentor, the man who helped write half of the federal compliance manual back when people still used fax machines. If you're calling me, someone stepped on a rake, he said. They just tried to put me on leave, I replied. During a federal acquisition? $150 million, and I've got the charter in hand. Silence, then a low whistle. You want me to nudge the regulators? Not yet, I said. Long game. Then document everything, he warned. And don't warn them. Wouldn't dream of it. I hung up, printed 2 more sets of documents, sealed one for legal, one for the client's counsel, just in case. By lunchtime, Vanessa had already posted on Slack. Lauren's recharge week, let's show her some love. I almost laughed. Instead, I logged into the compliance portal and marked the project as pending internal disruption. That tiny status flag was the digital equivalent of a landmine. It automatically put a caution tag on any deal above the 100 Namelser threshold. Let the system do the talking. The next hours passed quietly. People passed my office door whispering, glancing in, unsure if I was a ghost or a trap. By 5, I'd updated every log, stored encrypted backups on an external drive with a physical toggle lock, and slid the originals back into the fireproof box under my desk. My cat would be proud. That night, I went home, poured a glass of cheap Cabernet, and opened the thick accordion file labeled Employment and Regulatory Docs. The smell of old toner hit like déjà vu. My original offer letter, 2011, still crisp, embossed on heavyweight paper from when HR actually printed things. Then came the attachment, the compliance annex, signed by the CEO at the time, confirming that no merger or acquisition activity above 100 melomoses could be completed without my live certification. Certification, not review. My name printed in triplicate. It was the legal equivalent of a deadbolt. I flipped to the 2018 amendment, the Skycore Tech fallout. Back then, a junior VP had jumped the gun on a licensing deal and nearly triggered an SEC audit. After that mess, we added language-making compliance sign-off even stricter. Any internal disruption affecting the compliance chain automatically froze all high-value deals until resolution. Meaning Vanessa's little refresh week had just frozen the entire $150 million acquisition in real time. And she didn't have a clue. I didn't even need to intervene. The system would choke the deal on its own. Still, I wasn't careless. I scanned every document to an encrypted folder, mirrored it to a secure cloud drive, and dropped the originals into my safe, right next to my passport and earthquake kit. Essentials. Then I called Harvey again. He answered mid-yawn. Wine call or lawsuit call? Lawsuit adjacent, I said. Question. When we filed that 2018 charter update, did it include language about non-sanctioned leave directives? You mean if someone tries to boot you without board sign-off? Exactly. Clause 4.2b. Any attempt to unilaterally disrupt compliance oversight nullifies downstream signatures until resolution. You're untouchable. I exhaled slowly. Perfect. He chuckled. You sure you're okay? I looked around my apartment. The neat row of color-coded binders, the calendar marked with deadlines, the cat curled up like a smug pillow, and felt it settle in me. Not anger, not panic, just purpose. I'm better than okay, I said. I'm documented. The next morning, the email arrived. Subject line, Final Acquisition Doc Review. Internal plus external leads. It was sent by the client's legal liaison, Miranda Shaw, and scheduled for Friday. Guess who wasn't on the invite? Me. I stared at the calendar, then clicked Forward to Self, followed by Reply All. My message was clean and cold. Per Section 4.2b of the Compliance Charter, any final documentation review over the 100 NMLRS threshold requires regulatory sign-off. Please confirm who is representing compliance in this meeting. I have not been informed of reassignment or process deviation. Signed, Lauren Keaton, Director, Regulatory Compliance. No emotion, no threat. Just the weight of policy doing the talking. 5 minutes later, Miranda replied, Thank you, Lauren. We'll double-check the approval chain. Translation. The client was already suspicious. I shut my laptop and sipped my coffee. The silence felt different now, tighter, charged, like the air before a storm. By Wednesday morning, the building had gone strange. People moved too fast and spoke too softly. In the elevator, I overheard two analysts whispering, Compliance still hasn't signed off, right? No idea. I heard she's on leave. She's not. I saw her car yesterday. They froze when the doors opened and saw me. I smiled, a polite, terrifying smile, and walked out without a word. Upstairs, chaos was starting to seep through the seams of professionalism. Ops pinged legal. Legal pinged ops. The project manager updated the timeline every hour like rearranging columns would magically fix reality. Meanwhile, Vanessa had gone full PR crisis mode. She started sending emoji-filled emails to the client CCing half the board. Every message was a thesaurus of corporate nonsense. Synergy checkpoint, 99% alignment, agile cross-functional flow. Then, the line that made me choke on my coffee. Compliance portion fully addressed. All systems are go. I printed it, highlighted it, and filed it under insurance. Exhibit A. Then I wrote a short, surgical message to Miranda. Quick note, please ensure your team has reviewed the protocol chain for compliance sign-off. It's embedded in your due diligence checklist. No accusation. Just a breadcrumb. 5 hours later, when I returned from lunch, there was a folded note on my desk. No name, just 2 words. She's scrambling. Inside, a second line. Trying to slide unsigned docs through internal AR. I knew that handwriting. Rachel Ng, the CFO's assistant, quiet, sharp, invisible in the best way. She once caught a tax filing error that saved us $250K. People thought she was just scheduling meetings. Those people were idiots. I didn't reply. I simply left her a sticky note with a hand-drawn smiley face and a Starbucks card. She'd understand. By Thursday, the panic was visible. I could feel it vibrating through the walls like fluorescent hum. Someone resurrected the old policy tracker, a tool we hadn't used in 5 years, because when people panic, they cling to dashboards. I watched through my glass office wall as 6 executives crowded around a single monitor, refreshing every minute. Vanessa's mask was starting to slip. She sent out a department-wide progress email with 17 bullet points and 2 completely contradictory statements. Sign-offs 100% in process. Then, completed and archived. I muttered, "Pick a lie and commit, sweetheart." At 4:45 p.m., Rachel struck again. A forwarded message, subject line, heads up. The body. She's scheduling a client walkthrough without compliance. I didn't even sigh. I just added a new entry to my log. Observed attempt to misrepresent compliance status to external parties. Recommend audit trail preservation. No judgment, No commentary. Just data that could later detonate. That evening, I met Miranda in person at a small espresso bar across from HQ. She was already there, laptop open, eyes sharp. We'd known each other for years, two women fluent in the language of documentation. She skipped small talk. "We've been told compliance is covered," she said flatly. "Is that accurate?" I stirred my coffee. "Is that what your checklist says?" She shook her head. "No, which is why I'm here." I nodded once. "Then check the charter. The answer's in the protocol chain." "So, you haven't signed?" she asked. "If I had, the timestamp would show it," I said. "The system doesn't lie." She exhaled. "They really tried to ice you out. Not my first rodeo." She grinned faintly. "Good. They deserve what's coming." We clinked our paper cups like co-conspirators. I walked home under the yellow glow of city lights, knowing one thing for sure. Vanessa Carlyle was about to learn that the quietest person in the room was the one holding the detonator, and she'd already lit the fuse. Friday morning hit like a gavel. At 7:02 a.m., my inbox pinged with a new invite from Miranda. Final acquisition review. All signatories required. No emojis this time. No fluff. Just a time, 9:30 a.m., and a location. Conference room A, the big one with the fake marble table, bad acoustics, and a screen no one ever knew how to connect to without calling it. I arrived early, as always. 3 people from the client's team were already seated, their faces set in that corporate poker calm that hides panic. Miranda gave me a brief nod. Then came Vanessa. She stormed in like a reality TV contestant walking into a reunion episode, hair curled within an inch of its life. White blazer, tablet in hand, voice just a little too loud. "Morning," she chirped. "Thanks for making time, everyone. I'll be leading today's session. Got snacks coming at 10:15, so we'll keep it tight." You'd think we were hosting a baby shower, not a federal compliance review. She launched straight into her slideshow, clicking through each slide with machine gun speed, throwing around buzzwords like momentum synergy and execution alignment. It was corporate karaoke. "4 slides in," Miranda interrupted. "Sorry, can we pause here?" Her tone was level, but her eyes weren't smiling. "Of course," Vanessa said, all teeth. Miranda turned her laptop toward the table. A color-coded spreadsheet filled the screen. Document titles, required signatories, timestamps, certification statuses. Almost every row was green. One was red. Regulatory compliance attestation. Pending. "Can you walk me through this one?" Miranda asked. Vanessa's smile flickered. "Oh, that? Just an internal formality, purely clerical. Doesn't block anything." "Who's responsible for signing it?" asked one of the client reps. Vanessa hesitated. "Technically, our Director of Regulatory Compliance, but that's just legacy language. It's not a gating item anymore." That's when I reached into my bag and pulled out my compliance ID card. I slid it across the table like a silent gavel. Miranda picked it up, read it, then looked up with her brows slightly raised. "Lauren M. Keaton, Director of Regulatory Compliance. Authorized federal signatory for all transactions exceeding $100 million. Her tone made the room tilt. "Is this still accurate?" I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The silence answered for me. Vanessa's smile cracked like cheap glass. "Right, but Lauren's just here as a courtesy. We've been restructuring, so technically—" Miranda cut her off. "Have you signed the attestation form, Lauren?" "No." "Why not?" "Because no one has presented a compliant draft. Nor have I been notified of any approved change to my position." One of the client's senior negotiators, a gray-haired man named Curtis Langdon, who'd probably seen more corporate disasters than any of us, leaned forward, fingers steepled. "And if you don't sign it, I met his gaze. The deal doesn't close. The room fell into stillness so heavy you could hear the HVAC stutter. Vanessa gave a short, brittle laugh. I think we're over-dramatizing. It's internal bureaucracy. Bureaucracy that's federally mandated, Miranda said quietly. The temperature in the room dropped a few degrees. Curtis straightened in his chair, eyes sharp now. Can we see the original compliance charter? He asked. I'd anticipated that. I reached into my binder, pulled out a printed copy, and slid it across the table. The seal gleamed under the fluorescent light. Vanessa didn't speak again for the rest of the meeting. She just sat there, face tight, hands clasped, eyes darting between the documents like they were written in a language she'd never learned. By 10:15, the snacks she'd bragged about had arrived, untouched. The client's tone shifted from polite to surgical. They wanted dates, approvals, sign-off chains, system logs. They asked who had been assigned compliance duties during my refresh, why my name had disappeared from internal threads, why there was no timestamp on any recent filings. Every question sliced closer to the truth. Vanessa kept adjusting her blazer like it might shield her from reality. I sat still. Not smug, not triumphant, just immovable. This wasn't about revenge. It was about gravity. Facts fall. Always. When the meeting ended, no one looked at her. Miranda thanked me with a curt nod. Curtis closed his folder and said quietly, "That'll do." The sound of his chair scraping back was the only applause I needed. I left the room last, holding my ID and the original charter like the quietest weapon in the building. Down the hall, I could already feel it, Slack channels lighting up, executives whispering, legal department scrambling. The paper storm had begun, and I didn't have to lift another finger. The system would do the buy that afternoon. You could practically feel the fire alarms going off behind the glass walls of the executive floor. No one was running yet, but everyone could smell the smoke. Slack threads bloomed with frantic emojis. Urgent syncs appeared on calendars every 20 minutes. HR pretended to be busy while secretly watching everything unfold like a corporate true crime show. Someone in IT even pinged me privately. "Do you need a backup pulled from the archive?" Asking for no reason at all. I smiled. Not yet. Vanessa was unraveling faster than a PowerPoint on fire. The first thing she did was storm into HR and declare that I had obstructed the deal out of personal bitterness. According to Rachel, my quiet courier of truth, Vanessa's exact phrase was classic boomer vendetta. I was born in 1982. HR didn't take the bait. They asked calmly if she had any written documentation of my reassignment. She didn't. Then she pivoted, claimed I was on sabbatical, said Trevor from Ops had been temporarily empowered to act on my behalf. The HR rep, bless her procedural heart, asked if that delegation was recorded and acknowledged by compliance operations. Silence. End of scene. Meanwhile, the CEO, Graham Delaney, a man who measured success in private jets and self-help quotes, was still unreachable. Allegedly, at some executive alignment retreat, which I imagined involved trust falls, bad coffee, and total Wi-Fi blackout. The board chair left him 3 messages labeled urgent, very urgent, and I hope you're sitting down. By 6, legal started cracking. A junior associate poked her head into my office like a raccoon caught stealing something shiny. "Hey, Lauren," she said too brightly. Did you see the final compliance packet go through this week?" I blinked. "No, I haven't signed anything." "Oh, okay. Cool, she chirped before vanishing down the hallway. At 6:22 p.m., Rachel appeared again, this time holding a manila envelope like it might explode. "Thought you'd want to see this," she whispered, and left before I could thank her. Inside was a printed document I hadn't seen yet, a submission from Vanessa's team sent to the federal portal for early review. Probably her attempt to fake progress. Across the top, stamped in bold crimson, Non-compliant submission. Reason: missing formal attestation. Required signatory absent. Protocol violation. Section 4.2b. That bright red stamp wasn't random. It was my doing. Earlier in the week, I'd set a soft hold in the system, a quiet tripwire that would flag any premature filings for manual review. And now, they'd stepped right on it. I slid the document into my binder and added a single line to my log. Unauthorized submission triggered federal alert. Origin: people operations, pending investigation. 5 minutes later, someone from IT knocked on my door. "Hey, sorry to bother you," he said, sweating slightly. "We're just updating internal access privileges per request from above. Mind logging out for a second?" I looked up. "Whose request?" Vanessa's." I smiled. Small, controlled. "You'll want to confirm that with legal. Any interruption of compliance systems during an active federal transaction is a reportable event." He paled. "Right. I'll check that." He left so fast he forgot his tablet. The room went still again. The kind of stillness that follows a detonation. Every step Vanessa took was now triggering alarms she couldn't hear. Every email, every quick update, every access request, it all fed into the audit trail. I didn't need to fight her. The documentation was fighting for me. By Monday, Graham Delaney finally returned from his retreat, tan and furious. The moment his SUV hit the parking garage, the air in the building changed. He stormed into the executive floor, voice booming. "Why is this deal delayed?" The echo bounced down the hallway and made a paralegal spill her latte. Rachel texted me 2 words. Moses arrived. Apparently, Vanessa tried to explain, throwing around buzzwords like a malfunctioning AI. "Just transitional friction, a few bottlenecks, nothing material." Translation: she'd poked the compliance bear and it bit back. Graham's response, according to multiple witnesses, was a single icy question. "Who's managing compliance right now?" She opened her mouth to answer. And that's when someone, still anonymous, leaked the email. The one she sent to HR. The one that said, "Take 1 week and she's gone. Don't CC her. She's dead. Trevor will shadow so it still looks covered. By the time legal notices, we'll be too deep to backtrack." It spread through the company like a virus. Legal, IT, finance, even the client. Miranda printed it and dropped it on the negotiation table like evidence in a trial. The client's lead negotiator read it, looked up, and said, "If internal governance here is this unstable, we're reevaluating the deal and its valuation." The board panicked. Calls, closed-door meetings, panicked whispers. And by 1:17 p.m., I received the inevitable calendar ping. Compliance signature. Emergency boardroom review, 3:00 p.m. Perfect. Time for the quiet part to go loud. At 2:57 p.m., and I walked toward the boardroom, binder in hand, pulse steady. It was the same dark navy suit I wore for depositions, audits, and quiet vindications. The kind of outfit that says, "I didn't come to argue. I came to end it." When I opened the door, the air inside was thick with the kind of silence that smells like expensive panic. The board chair, Elliot Brand, stood by the window, arms folded, eyes fixed on the skyline as if the glass might offer absolution. Graham Delaney sat at the head of the table, face pale, jaw clenched, staring at a legal pad he wasn't writing on. Vanessa was already there, 2 seats down, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Her lipstick was perfect, but her hands were trembling. Miranda and the client's team sat opposite them, stone-faced. I placed my binder on the table, clicked it open, and took my seat. Graham cleared his throat, voice rough. "Lauren, we're here to clarify a few things." "Of course," I said calmly. He glanced at Vanessa, then back to me. "There's been confusion around the compliance process." We'd like to confirm where things stand. Do you want the short answer or the documented one? I asked. Elliot turned from the window. We'll take the documented version. I slid a single sheet forward. My compliance activity log from the past week. Every ignored email, every unauthorized submission, every missing signature. Nothing has been signed, I said. Nothing can be signed until this disruption is resolved. The silence after that statement could have been used to calibrate seismographs. Miranda picked up my ID card from the table and read aloud. Lauren M. Keaton, Director of Regulatory Compliance, authorized federal signatory for transactions exceeding $100 million. Then she looked straight at Graham. So, who exactly authorized her removal? The air snapped. Vanessa opened her mouth, then shut it again. The CEO blinked twice. You could almost see the sweat forming. There was never a formal, "She told HR I was gone," I interrupted evenly. She ordered ET to revoke my access. She delegated my duties to an operations manager unqualified under federal charter. I have it all documented. I pulled out a printed copy of Vanessa's email, the one with the nail polish emoji, and slid it across the table. Elliot picked it up, read it once, and set it down like it was radioactive. Curtis, from the client side, leaned forward. Gentlemen, he said quietly, this isn't a clerical mistake. This is a governance failure. He looked between Graham and Elliot. And I need to know if I'm negotiating with executives or interns with Wi-Fi. Vanessa's face drained of color. She tried to speak again, voice thin. Look, I think we can all agree this was just miscommunication. Stop, Elliot said without raising his voice. She froze. Graham swallowed hard. Lauren, surely we can... I've filed no approvals, I said, flipping to a clean page. No attestations, no certifications. In fact, I triggered a compliance flag that's already registered your submission as non-compliant with the federal portal. Your resubmission window closes in 72 hours. Miranda nodded once. We're aware, she said coolly. Curtis added, if the compliance disruption isn't corrected by then, our board will be recommending a full reevaluation of the merger terms. That won't be favorable. Vanessa's lips parted, but nothing came out. Just the faintest tremor of realization. She wasn't in charge of anything anymore. Elliot turned slowly toward her, then to Graham. His voice was low, steady, lethal. This is no longer an HR issue. This is a reputational threat. Then he looked back at me. Lauren, what do you need to resume compliance oversight? I'd been waiting for that question all week. Written reinstatement, I said. Full system access restored. No interference. And she, I nodded slightly toward Vanessa, does not come within 100 feet of any regulatory documentation again. No one argued. No one even blinked. Elliot nodded once. Done. I stood, gathered my documents, and slid them neatly into my binder. Then you have 71 hours left. I turned to leave, heels clicking like a countdown clock. Behind me, Curtis spoke one last time. Calm, surgical, final. You all treated her like a formality, he said. She's the firewall, and you almost burned the whole company down. The door shut behind me, and for the first time all week, I let myself breathe. Just once. Then I straightened my jacket and smiled. The long game was nearly over. The following morning, there were no balloons on my desk, no apologetic muffins from HR, no one pretending this was a misunderstanding. Just a calendar ping titled Board plus Legal plus Compliance. Urgent action required. 10 o'clock a.m. Conference room C. No emojis, no coffee provided. The kind of invite that means someone's about to lose their job, and someone else is about to redefine their title. When I walked in, the room was stripped down to the essentials: water bottles, legal pads, and tension. The client's full legal team was already there, Miranda in her usual black blazer, Curtis with his arms crossed like he'd seen this movie before. Graham sat in the corner, looking like he hadn't slept, tie askew, eyes hollow. Vanessa sat 2 chairs down from him, mascara smudged, hair falling out of its curls, biting her lip hard enough to leave a mark. I didn't waste time. I set my binder down, clicked it open, and pulled out the single sheet I'd signed last Tuesday at 2:14 p.m., the voluntary compliance hold order. I turned it so everyone could see the stamp. Filed under Keaton Credentials, Section 4.2b, Regulatory Hold Initiated. This, I said evenly, was filed to protect the firm. Reason listed. Pending investigation into internal personnel disruptions affecting protocol integrity. Silence stretched. Miranda reached for the page first, scanning it quickly. She gave a small, approving nod. Smart. Curtis leaned in next, murmuring, "Very." Graham looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. "You held the deal?" he rasped. I met his eyes. "I didn't kill it. I protected it from being poisoned." Vanessa let out a strangled sound, part laugh, part sob. "I didn't mean, this wasn't supposed to—" Elliot cut her off with a tone sharp enough to draw blood. "You jeopardized the largest acquisition in company history," he said. His gaze didn't waver. "You treated compliance like a formality. You treated the federal charter like a memo." Then, turning to Graham, "And you allowed it." No one spoke. The air hummed with humiliation and paperwork. I let the silence stretch another beat before I stood up. "Effective immediately," I said. "My replacement as Director of Regulatory Compliance has been approved." That got their attention. Vanessa blinked. "Wait, you're leaving?" "No," I said, letting the word hang for effect. "I'm transitioning." I turned to Miranda. "Would you mind confirming?" She unlocked her phone, opened an email, and read aloud. "Client recommends immediate elevation of Lauren M. Keaton to Chief Compliance Liaison across all pending joint regulatory initiatives. Approval signed by both boards as of last night." Elliot's eyebrows rose. "You're not resigning?" "I'm being promoted," I said, "by the people who actually understand the cost of underestimating silence." Curtis smiled faintly. Miranda's lips curved just enough to say, "Finally." I closed my binder, smoothed my jacket, and nodded once toward the client team. "My part of the process is complete. I'll have my office cleared by Friday. You'll receive a transition memo before noon." Vanessa's face crumpled. Graham's shoulders slumped. Elliot leaned back in his chair, exhaled slowly, and said nothing. I reached the door before Curtis spoke again, his tone quiet but cutting. "Lauren?" I turned. "Thanks for not warning them." I smiled, small, deliberate. They wouldn't have listened anyway. Then I walked out. The hallway outside the boardroom was blindingly bright. Employees looked up from their screens, pretending they hadn't been eavesdropping, eyes wide with the kind of awe people reserve for car crashes and miracles. I didn't slow down. Back in my office, I packed the essentials: my compliance binders, the black swan envelope, the cat photo magnet on my filing cabinet. I took one last look at the desk where I'd spent 15 years making sure other people's chaos didn't become criminal. The Slack channels were still buzzing, but I ignored them. Instead, I opened my laptop one final time and typed a short internal memo. To all department heads. Subject: Transition Notice. Compliance Oversight. Effective immediately. All regulatory communications and certifications will route through the Joint Liaison Office under my supervision. Please ensure all open actions are documented by EOD Thursday. L.M. Keaton. I hit send, closed the lid, and exhaled. Outside, the city moved like nothing had happened. Inside, the paper trail I'd built was still echoing through every floor. Quiet revenge is never about volume. It's about precision. and I'd hit every mark.